Dun, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, dance party.
Get into it.
All right.
Yeah. All right, we're
So-
live.
So people are going to look at my pin today and they're going to wonder they're going to just think it's a NASA pin, but it is not.
What is it?
Let me see if I can maybe take a picture of it and then show the picture. I don't know how to do this, Let's see. Will that work?
I think so.
And it says not flat. We checked.
That's cool.
It's really hard to see that on the camera. I have to figure out how I can use this as like a second camera on the thing here. All right. Good evening, and welcome to our evening live stream for the 23rd of May, 2023, and it is a Tuesday. Did I get all that correct? And this is the International Geek of Bearheart Mystery show.
And then we lost it.
And I'm Bearheart. All right. So I have some notes for this. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I'm going to kind of lean back, get comfortable, and do this. All right. So a couple of weekends ago, I had some grief I had to move through, and I had not had the time to really deal with it before, and it was a few weeks old. But I know this about myself, and I think it's a truth about people in general, that if you don't deal with the grief will deal with you. It'll take you down. And so let me bring that up. All right. And so I did the thing that I do, because I've been through this before, and I've spent a lot of years in various spiritual trainings and really learning how to deal with my shit. And a lot of this some amount of this has to do with my neurodivergence, because with the autism, I don't process emotions like most people do. Sometimes, it feels kind of like the Vulcans on Star Trek. They have the emotions, but they have learned to suppress them because they're not useful, and they feel them, but they ignore them, and they're like buried down there, and they don't even notice them anymore because they've been through the Kolinar, which is what they call their training that teaches them to suppress their emotions. And but before they were so enlightened that they had this spiritual practice, this ceremony, this teaching, whatever it is, I think it's a ceremony that they go through, this Kolinar, which sounds like one of those fancy pens, doesn't it? Oh, that's Kohinar. But before all of that, they were incredibly violent people. And the truth is about me, before I did the work that I did, I wasn't violent in the way that I didn't actually hurt people, but I was I could I could become very scary angry, and that hasn't actually happened in a very, very long time, like probably 20 years since I've had an episode like that.
Is there anything in particular that gets you worked up like that? Or is there something is there any singular trigger?
That's a good question.
Like a culmination of like a bunch of
People
little...
asking
that's a good
that question.
I knew you were going to say that too.
I thought it was a good question.
No, it's an excellent question. And, there's honestly anything at all, anything emotional at all. I cry at movies. I cry at TV shows.
I love a good movie / TV cry.
I cry at Calvin and Hobbes. I mean, it's like anything at all. My emotions are so fragile, incredibly fragile. And so it's become, really imperative for me to know how to deal with them. And so here's what I do. I had this grief that I needed to deal with, and I knew it was there, and I hadn't dealt with it, and it had been weeks. And I had it a weekend, and I said, okay, I'm just going to do it, And so this is what it looks like. First, I acknowledge it, and I set my mind on the relevant details, the thing that I'm grieving, and I feel it, and I cry, and I go through that. And that might take me. Hello, Salma from Vancouver. Brilliant. Howdy. Welcome. And so I go through that, and that, I mean, in this case, that really took Saturday. And then I do my spiritual practice for the self-care. And this is like the same thing I do. I do this every day. And it's sometimes several times a day. And if, any time that I, it's like a normal morning thing, and it's a normal evening thing that I do every day. And, and if in the middle of the day I'm feeling particularly stressed or emotional, or didn't get enough sleep, or the world is pissing me off, or whatever it is, I have these days, I call them global conspiracy days, where it just feels like the entire world is conspiring to annoy me. And I call them global conspiracy days. But anytime I'm feeling a little bit off, I have this practice that I do. And it's a combination of it's like all the stuff that I learned over those 30 years that I was seeking spirituality. And hey, Porcupine, good to see you, bro. And the purpose of this, what this does is it resets my worldview. It's like, I know that a lot of our audience is very familiar with computers, so I'm going to make a computer analogy. If you ever have your computer and everything you try to do, it like isn't quite working right, and things are a little bit off, and this app doesn't want to quit, and that app doesn't want to start, and everything got really, really bogged down and slow, right? What do? You turn it off and turn it back on again. Oh, Kirsten was going to answer.
I'm going to answer that. I was so excited.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Usually say it as like an ironic thing, but it's actually so relevant to today, just electronics in general, which is dumb because it's like, hello, obviously.
You smack it a bunch of times over the head until it works, like an old TV,
well,
the ones with the antenna.
This is the thing that you don't want to do. So those old TVs, they were like that because they had tubes. And
yes,
when you slapped them on the side, it doesn't work, to do it on top. You have to do it on the side. And then it like shakes the filaments of the tubes.
It's relevant. It's totally relevant. It's like, that is such an outdated way to treat ourselves. We can't smack ourselves over the head and just be man up.
If my phone is acting up, what do? I reset it, right? I turn it off, I turn it on, or, whatever. So what this practice does is it resets your worldview. It resets your brain. Sometimes I'll have these nights, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and my brain is going boom, 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 a million times, a million things a second, and I'll reset it. And this is how I reset it. So the first step is to find your gratitude. Gratitude is key. Every single person on the planet, no matter how bad their situation is, and I know there are some people with situations far, far worse. I mean, I'm fairly privileged. My situation, you know, it's not hard for me to find things to be grateful for. But for some people, it might be a little bit of a challenge. I mean, if all it is that I've got food on the table, I've got a roof over my head, and maybe you don't even have that. Maybe you're just grateful that you're above ground today, right? There's always something to be grateful for. And there's usually more than that. Usually there's some people in your life that you love, that love you. There can be many, many things that you can be grateful for. I know for me, I'm grateful for these two every day. And I'm grateful for my family. And I'm grateful that I have this life that I get to pretty much play with toys for a living. That's pretty awesome. And so finding your gratitude is the first step. And then once you've identified your gratitude, then turn it into a brief statement like, I'm grateful for the people in my life. I'm grateful for, for my partner who loves me. I'm grateful for the love of my partner. I'm grateful for, I'm grateful that another day above ground, whatever it is, and make that into a little affirmation. Okay, and that's a creative process, right? You get to create something, and that creativity is something else you can be grateful for, because that, in my view, is the one thing that separates us from the animal kingdom, is creativity. Animal kingdom, we find that they have language, they have love, they have, a lot of the things that we have, they don't have creativity. They don't make a thing where a thing didn't used to be. So once you have found that, then you go into the breath. So go ahead.
Before you start the breath portion, when it comes to the gratitude portion, are there any, like, if somebody, so say somebody's like really going through it, what would be like your top 3 things that are like basic? I should have like wrote this down beforehand, but like the top 3 things, if somebody can't think of absolutely anything.
If you can't think of stuff, what are some thoughts of places where you can start?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going off the top of my head. When I come out of this funk, who's going to be there? Look towards the other side of whatever it is you're going through, and say, what is that life that I want to get back to, and what are the things and the people and the places and the
and the cats
and the cats. Always be grateful for your cats, especially Ricky. And what are those? What is that life?
Okay.
And I think you'll find your gratitude there someplace, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then once I have my affirmation, and for me that comes quickly because I have an abundance of things that I'm grateful for, but part of that is that I have trained myself over all these years to always be grateful. Because 30 years ago, when I was still going through my shit, I was pissed off all the time. And it was hard for me to think of things to be grateful for. But my life today isn't that much different than my life was back then. I mean, I have a nicer house. Some of the people are different, but there were people then who loved me, and there's people today who love me. And but the difference is that I've trained myself to always find the gratitude. So that's an ongoing thing. And if you do this practice, like I recommend, every morning and every evening for 30 days, if you do that, then you will find that gratitude comes a lot easier to you. All right. So the breath is very, very simple. And you can look up on the internet, you'll find it's called the the 3-4-5 breath or something like that, right? Where you slowly inhale for a count of 3, you hold for a count of 4, and you exhale slowly for a count of 5. And then you repeat, you inhale slowly, count of 3, right? And as you get better at it, and one of the things that'll happen is that your capacity, your lung capacity will get stronger, and you'll find that, I tend to do 7, 8, 9.
Okay, overachiever.
Yeah, well, is that anything new?
No, it should not even remotely, I should have never said it because everybody else.
So while you're doing the breath, you want all of your focus to be on the breath. You're not thinking about anything else. You just turn your focus inward. A lot of people close their eyes. It's not required, but if that helps you, then do. And just focus on, that breath going in or some people go in through their nose and out through their mouth. Some people go through their mouth and out through their nose, whatever. That's not the important part, but whatever it is you decide to do that and pay attention to it and do it intentionally, right? But then on the exhale, on the longest count, the long count of the exhale, I want you to focus on your affirmation, your gratitude affirmation. So as you're focused on the gratitude affirmation, while you're exhaling, this is symbolic of giving your gratitude back to the universe, because your gratitude has fed you, and now you're giving it back to the universe, or the spirits, or God, or whatever it is that you choose, however you choose to metaphor that thing. But it's that thing where life comes from. And it's really the source of all the things that you are grateful for, right? Even if it just comes down to, I'm grateful that I am above ground today. You are above ground today because there is air to breathe. Because without the air to breathe, you would be under the ground. All right. So, yeah, go ahead.
I forgot that I have real hands right now. So I put up the emoji, not remembering that I can move my arms today.
There you go.
Well,
are you grateful for having hands?
I'm so grateful that I have 2 hands, because you know what? For a lot of people, that's a given. But for me, that was not entirely a given. Like right. Growing up, I did not think that I trained for a lot of years to learn to write with my left hand, because the ability to keep my right hand was something to be grateful for. It was not a guarantee for me. But yes,
we don't know this story.
Yeah, anyways, I raised my hand because I'm curious what you know about Wim Hof breathing. WIMHOF. Wim Hof.
I have not heard of it.
I lately, for the last month or so, have been doing Wim Hof breathing techniques twice a day. And it's very similar to the 4, 5, 6. But it's, I think, a little bit more intense, and it has helped my lung capacity a lot, which is awesome. And I feel very connected to my body when I do this, and I've found that it serves me really well. So I'm going to try doing it with the gratitude and combining that, because normally I just focus on my body, but I'll do it with the gratitude and I'll report back. But I really like the Wim Hof breathing technique. It's a bunch of very quick breaths, 30, very quick, in, out, like very cyclical, continuous.
So what
breaths.
I'd like to do is I'd like to schedule another live stream where you can explain that. But okay. I'd rather not confuse the breaths today. Also, I have experienced a lot of different types of breaths. I have a good friend in Denton, Texas, who teaches Kundalini yoga, and there is a Kundalini breath meditation that he does that's fantastic. So, there are a lot of them. And honestly, the point is to breathe. The point is to breathe focus on the breath, breathe very consciously and meditatively and slowly, and focus on the breath. And so do this for 5 minutes, and then stop and focus on, so, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. I was going through grief, and I chose to take this time to focus on the grief, to focus on the sadness, to let it flow through me, to accept it as a part of life, to feel it deeply, to accept it as a part of love, because grief is part of love. It's in the mix. It's always in the mix there. You can't love somebody without running into grief now and then. It's just part of it, right? Kirsten, when your son broke his arm, right? That's the love, that pain that you felt, that's the love, right? Okay.
Where
I'm getting verklempt already.
My mom always said this growing up when it came to like physical or emotional or mental, ailments. She would always say, I wish I could carry that for you. I wish I could take all that and carry it for you. And I was like, why would you want to do that? Especially as a teenager, and I'm like crying over a boy. And I'm like, why would anybody just like willingly be like, yep, pick me, like I'll do that for you. And now being a mom and having the friend group that I do it in a heartbeat for any of them.
Right.
I really would.
Right. So there, one of my teachers defined love as the irrational choice, to put somebody else's well-being ahead of your own.
It's a good way to describe it.
It's an interesting definition, isn't it? But it is surprisingly accurate. Oh, there's nothing rational about love, but it's necessary. It's as necessary as air. So when we realize that our grief is tied up with the love, then we can actually be grateful for the grief.
It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all.
There's that, and that's poetic, and it's probably even Shakespeare. I mean, and it's true. It's true. And but it's not always loss that gives us grief. Sometimes it's just pain. What's going on in my life, and I'm not going to get into the specifics because I have a rule about telling other people's stories. But there's somebody who is going through pain, and it hurts me, and I feel that same thing. It's like, if I could carry this for you, I totally would, in a heartbeat. And that's. Oh, now it's 5-1 Dodgers. Sorry.
Squirrel. Something to be grateful for.
Exactly. Squirrel.
Gratitude. No, it's relevant. Make it relevant.
What did you say?
I said, make it relevant.
Make it relevant.
You're grateful that the Dodgers are up by 4.
Oh, thanks, Ricky. Always bringing us back to the message.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, I guess I'm grateful for Max Muncy. So looking at my notes here, when you're all done with this, there's a tradition in the spiritual path where a lot of this came from, which I absolutely subscribe to, and I think it is an important part of all of this. Is that anytime you do any ceremony, they call it, or spiritual practice, or whatever it is, and the universe is giving you a gift, is giving you that gift of peace and centered with yourself, and way through the grief, where it doesn't like hang on and fuck up the rest of your life. You need to give back, and the way that we do this is for every ceremony, for every practice, and in this case, I'm doing at least 2 of these a day. I have to do 1 act of kindness. And an act of kindness is defined as doing something for somebody else that you would not otherwise do. And so, what does that look like? Most of the time when I go out, like I go to the grocery store, I'll give something to the cashier, I'll give her, some money or a gift or something. I let people go ahead of me in line, help somebody, help somebody carry their groceries to their car. They look like they're, they got all these kids on their arms and everything. Just do something for another person that you would not normally do. And the effect of this, you can look at it in the spiritual way. Oh, you're giving back to the universe is giving to you, and it's completing this cycle. And that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it, which I consider a little bit more pragmatic, is that I'm training myself to love myself and everybody around me, to make love the default. Love is the default. We walk through, especially those of us that live in a big city, we might walk through life with paranoia as the default. We might walk through life with, guarding ourselves as the default. Right? Protecting ourselves from, expecting this person who's walking towards us, all in dark clothes and a hoodie and expecting them to do something bad. But what if your default was love? And instead of being surprised when somebody's nice to you, be surprised when they're not. It's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. I thought this person was going to be nice to me, right? And when the person's not nice, then how do you respond? Do you respond with kindness? Do you respond with compassion? When somebody's being an asshole to you on the internet, right? In the comments, we've all been there, right? How do you respond? Do you turn around and, try to one up them in the asshole war? Or do you give them some
up in the asshole?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to take this opportunity to call on Ms. Holiday in.
One of the, I guess, hardest things for me when it comes to acts of kindness, which it shouldn't be hard. I probably didn't say that right. But, it
is hard for most people. Most people don't think of it. It's not in their awareness.
Well, that's the thing. It's the opposite for me, where I constantly, and I just, knock it to my Southern hospitality, but it's what seems like an act of kindness to other people, to me is just being a good person or doing the right,
and those don't count.
People, they don't.
Nope.
Oh,
it's got to be something you would not normally
do.
It's
but say I was from New York and those things were not, that was generalist. I shouldn't have said that.
Right. No, but
say I was from
I'm fully aware of how people from Texas think of people from New York.
That came off wrong. I just meant
you ain't talking about the upstate
not in the
New York.
South. People not in the South.
Oh, okay.
That don't know about that
the
Southern
Muggles.
Hospitality life.
The Muggles to the South. So here's the answer to your question. If I understand your question, it's if this is my normal routine to be absolutely open-hearted and kind and generous to everybody in my circle, because I am the perfect example of the daughter of the Confederacy.
Oh,
if I am Scarlett O'Hara herself, then what counts as an act of kindness?
I'm more of an Annie Oakley, so let's not get it twisted.
Okay, Annie Oakley. Then an act of kindness would be something beyond that.
Okay.
Something outside of that. Normally, if you're driving down the road and you see somebody at the side of the road whose tire is, they're changing their tire, Do you drive on by, or do you stop and see if there's anything you can do to help? It has to be an inconvenience.
Well, that is dangerous too.
Yeah, that goes into like
That's dangerous for women.
Again, you're expecting, your expectation is not love.
Yeah, that's very true. But I would rather err on the side of caution there and show my kindness in other ways than even
find it in other ways.
Risk.
Find it in other ways. But in the meantime, go take a good self-defense course so that you're prepared. There's an expression that I learned when I was in Texas. Trust everyone, but brand your cattle. What is she doing here?
I was doing the miscongeniality.
I see.
It's solar plex, instep, nose, groin.
Oh, there you go.
I'll demonstrate on my cat. Just kidding.
Go out and take a course. Especially the women in my life, I have made sure that, all the kids, Rose, all of them have been through basic self-defense. And because you want to default to love, you want to be prepared for the other thing. And that way you can go into the situations where you're defaulting to love with less fear. Right? I don't want to see any of you get hurt. And if that makes you afraid, then don't do it. But also prepare yourself so that you can in the future, you can expand your horizons in the future with less fear. And for those of you in my employ, if you want, I will schedule. Well, actually, I can do this for Ricky. I can't schedule it for Kirsten. Go take a self-defense course and expense it.
Okay. Thank you.
This is my evening act of kindness to provide that for you.
Thank you. Yes, I took like 4 weeks maybe of karate when I was a kid. And what I learned from it was the whole wrap around and closed fist, the thumbs on the outside.
Yep.
That's what I learned.
Yep. So
and go for the eyeballs.
Did you do katas?
Nope.
Okay. So that's so you did a very abbreviated, like,
I was 9.
Women's self-defense, kids self-defense kind of a
thing.
Yeah. So, go out and take one. And Ricky, somewhere in our files here at the house, we have, or you can ask Glenvy for the people that trained the Rose and the kids, and they did a great job, and they all enjoyed it, and they got something out of it, and maybe help you with that.
Definitely. I mean, it's better than being paranoid all the time and just holding on to my pepper spray and my taser and my other unnamed weapons.
Yeah. So at some point about 20 years ago, I got a brown belt in Aikido. So
isn't brown like pretty high up there?
No, it depends on who's training you, but brown is generally about halfway to a black belt.
It's still pretty good.
It's enough. I mean, I was never into it for the sport of it, or I have friends who have like multiple degrees of black belts, and that was never the thing for me. It was never like a thing that I'm not a fighter. I've never had to be. There's something about my size and my presence that tends to scare off the bad guys. I could tell you stories. I mean, there was one time I was in Jamaica with a few friends, and we were walking in the street, and I'm walking with these 2 women who were friends of mine, and these guys started approaching us, and I could sense it, and so I pushed them behind me, and I stood up straight and planted my feet, and they took a look at me, and they turned and they ran. And that is pretty much how it always goes with me. I'm 6'4". I'm kind of built like a refrigerator, and I have a carriage about me, which I think actually comes more from ballet than it does from martial arts, but it's still there, and it's actually the same. They teach you the same carriage, shoulders back, chest out, and arms, it's like a second position, right? Or, with but I didn't even have to take a stance. I mean, I just stood there, and this is pretty much, been my experience. Oh yeah, another time I was out on a date, and we were at a bar listening to some music, and this like really, really drunk guy decides that we're sitting in his chairs. And he's like, harassing me, and he comes up behind me with a plastic cup full of ice and smashes it on the top of my head.
At least it
And
was plastic.
well, at
Goodness.
least it was plastic, right? I stood up, I turned around, and saw that by the time I stood up and turned around, the entire room had cleared, and this guy was nowhere to be seen.
Shocker.
And it's just my presence. There's something about my aura that when I switch it on, it makes people want to run. So I have never had to throw a punch in my life. And there is one punch that I actually did throw when I was in the 6th grade. And I think we told that story on one of our podcasts. But other than that, I have never had to throw a punch in my life. And I know how, but yeah, so that actually helps for you to be able to approach the world with love if you know how to defend yourself, just in case what comes back is not love. But don't expect it. Don't expect it. Be aware. And be aware. And if the energy changes and you see the energy like not being love all of a sudden, then know how to stand your ground, know how to run. My martial arts teacher always taught me, the best defense is, de-escalation is first. And if that doesn't work, disengage. And that's oftentimes looks like running. There was 5 Ds, and I don't remember them all, but that was 2 of them. So yeah, reset your worldview. Find your gratitude. Do the meditative breath and meditate on your gratitude affirmation. Accept the grief, accept the sadness, accept it for what it is. It's an expression of love, and be grateful for it. Be grateful that you have enough love in your heart that you were able to experience that. And once you let that go through you, and once you have felt it and embraced it and acknowledged it and loved it, you find yourself on the other side where you can love again. And then take that love out into the world and, show it to everybody in your path. Acts of kindness, and, just reset your default to love. Because as the great John Lennon would say, love is all you need. Love, love, love. Yeah. All right. So that's what I got on that subject. I hope it's been helpful. Is our audience still there? Like, check in and let us know that you're still there, and if this meant anything to you, and if it was helpful. I know for a lot of us cerebral types, we don't really lead with our heart. We lead with our mind. How many we got? 5?
No, that was me raising my hand. We have a LinkedIn comment. I put it in the chat. I don't know if you saw it, but it's from Srinatha Reddy, KR, who says, hello.
Hello. And it's got the little waving emoji. I love that. All right. Well, I hope it's been useful. I hope this has been meaningful to y'all. Yeah.
We have a couple more comments. I was just looking just at LinkedIn, and then I went back to the other tab. Right. Porcupine Butler says, Purple Heart.
Oh, that's sweet.
Skylord Sprinkle says, yes, robot emoji. And then, who is that?
I don't know who he's asking about, but I'll take it. Yeah.
Yes, who is that?
Yeah.
Kirsten, you're muted.
You're muted. Kirsten, you're muted.
At the hotel.
I was just trying to point in the right direction to point at Ricky.
Well, you know, we don't know. We actually don't know what the orientation is when it comes out of the Zoom. Well, I guess you might know
Actually, yes, we do. Kirsten, you're
'cause you're
pointing that
looking at
way.
it. Because you're
I
looking
would
at
point
it.
this way, you. Yeah. Yeah, this is it. This is right.
I always just point this way.
Like and subscribe.
Pretty much.
All right.
Okay, hold on. We have another. We have hello from Bengal. I'm gonna butcher this. Bengaluru, India. Like the flag. That's where Srinath is from on LinkedIn.
Excellent. Excellent.
What time is it there?
Time for you to get a watch.
It'd be boom. It would be roughly 12 hours later than
12 and a half.
this.
So
Yeah,
it would
so
be
roughly, give or take. So
7, 10, 7, 11. 7, 11.
Make a wish.
Yeah.
That's 11.
Yeah.
So close.
That was some jinxie thing.
Yep.
All right. And great. So I hope this was really helpful. And we techie types, we tend to lead with our brain, and that works for us for most of the things that we do. We need to be there, but we need to oftentimes, in our own time, in our own space, balance that out with our heart, and we will be stronger for it. We will be more kind and more loving. We will attract more kindness and love from the world around us. And the world gives you what you show the world, right? The universe, the whatever. And so this is a really good practice. It works for me. I have the spiritual paths that I experimented with over that 30-year stretch varied a lot, and they were mostly had a lot of very complicated rituals and practices and ceremonies. And I'm grateful that I went through those things because I learned a lot from them. But mostly, one of the biggest things I learned is that the simplest is often the best. That kind of tracks with Occam's razor, doesn't it? That the simplest answer is often the correct answer, right? And so, this is a simple little practice. Just takes a few minutes in the morning, a few minutes in the evening. You can repeat it through the day if you want to. And honestly, you do this for 30 days and your life will change for the better. You will have more love in your life. You'll have more peace in your life. You'll be more in touch with your heart. And it will all be very, very improved. Yeah, Ricky.
From Tyler Bird on YouTube. Humans need their souls, quote from a rabbi, which is beautiful. I like that.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Please thank your rabbi for me. Yeah, that wisdom comes from interesting places, doesn't it? Yeah. All right, so that's what I got. And I think Kirsten, Ricky, you guys got anything else?
I don't think so.
All right.
I try to interrupt you, throw you off your game all night.
That's all right. You're always welcome to do that, and it's usually an improvement.
Y'all stayed true to the path. I'm really proud of you guys.
Yeah, and remember, trust everyone, but brand your cattle. That's like one of my favorite sayings that I got from living in Texas. I mean, there's, Texas is famous for those kinds of things.
I'd love to do just a Texas sayings live stream.
That would be fun. Add that to the list.
That would be fun. I'm not sure I remember a lot of them, but.
Oh, you don't have to remember them. You just have to experience them as I do them in the accent of my mother. I don't know what her accent is. It's just my mom.
I did a job back in the 80s. This is before I ever lived in Texas, where the manager and it was a bunch of programmers in a room who were frantically writing code for a card reader system. And there's a long story as to why we were in a hurry, but we were like turning out code like nothing, like nobody's business. But this this guy, he was from South Carolina, and he talked like that. and it was crazy. But he had so many of these things he would say. I would turn in a piece of code that was really good, and he would say, well, that's slicker than grease pig shit.
Yep. That's one I hear a lot more often than I would like to.
Well, I just thought that was hilarious, and I will never forget that. And so when I see something really cool, oftentimes the voice in my head will go, well, that's slicker than grease pig shit. You can't.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
You just
can't, or is it both?
You default to love. You just can't think on that too hard without getting really grossed out. All right, kids. Love you all. See you in the morning. Now, okay, here's the thing we need to discuss. Tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock Pacific, I will be on the road. And I don't know, I may or may not have cell service. So I'm going to let these two run the live stream. I don't know how you're going to need to do it from like your own account or something. And I don't know how to do that. And
I'll set it up. I will happily set it up, and I'll send you the link just in case you can. Yeah,
send me the link, because if I'm somewhere where I have cell service, I may just, because I got the phone mounted on my dashboard, I may just, hit the button, right? And y'all couldn't watch me drive.
We stop talking about whatever we're talking about, and we just.
And then in the evening, I should be in. Oh no, we're not doing an evening tomorrow, but Thursday I'll be in the hotel room.
Hotel.
Oh, wait. Let me look at the calendar. Thursday. Okay, I have a 12 o'clock meeting on Thursday. So so that's fine. I can do the 11 a.m. and then in the evening, I can be back in the hotel and I can write.
I think Kirsten and I are just excited to do one, to host one.
Yeah,
for sure. That'll be lead one. That'll be fun.
The mouse is away, so the cats will play.
Rachel, bye. We're excited.
All right. So hopefully I'll see y'all tomorrow. If not, you got these two, which is better anyway. Love you. Have a great evening or morning for those of you in South Asia. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.